on TVC News. We begin with the latest regarding the unrest in Sudan, where the Sudanese army says diplomats and nationals from the UK, the US, France and China are to be evacuated from the country by air as the fighting continues there. Sudan's Army Chief Fatah al-Burhan agreed to facilitate and secure their evacuation. The army has been locked in a bitter power struggle with the leader of a rival paramilitary faction known as the Rapid Support Forces, and hundreds of people have been killed in a week of fighting across the country. Previous plans to evacuate foreign nationals haven't been implemented due to fear for their safety. Now, Saudi Arabia has also announced it's arranging the evacuation of its citizens from allied nations. The Sudanese army says Saudi Arabia's diplomatic mission had already been evacuated by land to Port Sudan and from there by air to Saudi Arabia, adding that Jordan's diplomatic mission will be next to be secured. Let's talk more about the unrest in Sudan, bringing in now from the state of Indianapolis in the United States, Global Affairs Analyst Kunle Falowo. Thank you for joining us at this time. What are your thoughts on the unrest in Sudan? Hello, Kunle, can you hear me? What are your thoughts on the unrest in Sudan?
Okay, I can hear you now. Well, thanks for having me. So Sudan is a relatively big country in the Horn of Africa. There's about 46 million people, over 46 million people in Sudan, and it's been described as one of the poorest country in Africa, arguably one of the poorest country in the world, I would say. Sudan right now is locked in a serious battle for dominance, battle for leadership. If you recall, they had a coup d'état that chased out the incumbent the former president al-Bashir out of office, and he's ruled in that country for 30 years, and then after that, there were talks about transitioning to a democratic-led government, and that was where the crux of the issue is lying, because we have two factions. We used to be the leaders of these two factions used to be friends, and they participated in the coup that had the former president ousted out of office. But now, instead of forming an alliance and continuing to grow Sudan out of that chaos and out of a military rule, now there's an infighting between the RSF and the
Hello, Kunle, can you hear me?
on the streets, and there are no electricity, there are no power, no water for people, and then it's a very, very chaotic situation in Sudan right now.
Right. And with this latest news from Sudan's army chief saying that foreign nationals, including diplomats, will now be safely evacuated, how do you greet this news, especially as people wonder now with civilians caught up in the crisis that erupted, of course, as you've said, between the army chief and his deputy who heads the RSF? What do you think the international community should do now, even though their safety is, of course, paramount?
Well, when there are conflicts, and the first thing that comes next in line is evacuations, that tells you that's a sad point of sort of fact that the fighting just actually got started, because now that you're doing evacuations, it's going to leave room for a lot of chaos and rancor. Now that foreign nationals have been evacuated, it's going to be a free-for-all between the RSF and the major military personnel and military operations in Sudan. I'm not hearing any talks about negotiations currently, because those two military men are getting support from some unscrupulous countries that are not mentioning their names out there now, but because due to the fact of the immense natural resources abound in Sudan, you would see that a lot of countries are not, not towing the line of mediating and trying to look for peace because there's a vested interest in the gold mines in Sudan. So that just tells you that the crisis over there is far from over because now evacuations are going on, so it's going to be a free for all in that country.
Right, and talks have largely broken down, and once again, civilians, their fate are unknown. The death toll is alarming. Hospitals are even talking about being attacked and all that. But, if you look at the RSF, how the RSF has evolved over the years, they've always been, how would I put it now? They've always been a very uncertain lot. When I say uncertain, I mean they've been used, to attack people, to cleanse ethnic groups, so to speak. But what do you see? Where do you see all this ending eventually? Do you really see the RSF being co-opted into the army? Or how do you think this will pan out eventually?
Well, that was one of the major issues that they had because the other factions, the other rebel factions, I would say, the leader of the RSF, they had issues because the RSF has grown to over 100,000 people, 100,000 capable men under the RSF, and there were conversations of incorporating them in the organized Sudan military, but that conversation collapsed and that dialogue wasn't going anywhere. And then that was some of the crux of the issues because the RSF wasn't incorporated in the Sudanese army. So when you have over 100,000 capable men with arms and ammunition and ready to fight any battle for any reasons whatsoever, and then aside from that, when you're looking at some of the allegations that have been leveled against human rights violations against the RSF, extrajudicial killings that have been going on under the guise of the RSF, and also these are the sets of people that are going about the gold mines and illegally getting materials and selling to other nationals. And it's a lot of things. It's chaotic. It's not organized. But at the end of the day, they will have to negotiate. But before we get there, it's just unfortunate that the ordinary civilians and ordinary Sudanese people are held right in the middle of this fight for leadership in Sudan, and people are going to die definitely. Our hope and our sincere wishes is for the two leaders to sit back on the negotiating table and iron out whatever issues that they have.
Kunle Falowo, thank you very much for your contributions on The World Now.
Absolutely. Thank you.